Be looking forward to. You're in safe pair of hands. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. Let me get you started on the latest. Now, the late Chief of Defense Forces Francis Ogolla was on Sunday buried at his home in Siaya County in a ceremony attended by dignitaries led by President William Ruto. Now, during the ceremony, leaders from the opposition, led by the Siaya Senator Oburu Odinga, expressed concern over the circumstances surrounding the death of the general. Now, Oburu urged President William Ruto to investigate, even as the head of state vowed to ensure that the truth about the accident is made bare and in public.
I would only want to mention one word after saying words of condolences and sympathies to the family. I would just like to say that the death was an accident, but even though it is an accident, in this region, we have had many such accidents, and we have also had assassination of leaders from this region. So when such things happen, we are a bit suspicious, not because of anything, but we want to know the truth. We want to know the truth. And I want to ask our uncle, the general's son, not to be impatient with us. It is not because of anything. It is just because once bitten, twice shy. So we are asking for no stones to be left unturned, and let us know the truth of who killed our uncle, General Ogolla.
When members of my community are expressing their concern about the way the end has come. And let us agree, my friends, the end is smelly. The end is smelly. The end is smelly. It's not as clean as the beginning. We would only ask you, Your Excellency, the way you broke the record of appointing him as the Commander-in-Chief, let us get the report about what happened to General Ogolla. That is the only thing that we want.
Now, during the burial, General Ogolla's son, Joel Ogolla, addressed the gossip and rumors that have been going around surrounding the death of his father, with some saying that the government had a hand in his death. Now, Joel said his father had a very good relationship with President William Ruto and Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, contrary to what politicians have been claiming.
You know, Your Excellency, even up to yesterday, people were still speculating, oh, President appointed him because of this, oh, President appointed. I want to clear the air with the conversations I had with my father about his time with the President. He didn't really divulge any national security issues, but generally, I feel it's important to, first of all, clear the air. The President didn't have to appoint him, first of all. And initially, he saw his competencies and decided that this is the man for the job. But very quickly, they started becoming friends and they formed a serious chemistry, which he would tell me, I have had a very good meeting with the boss. You're not telling me what it is. And it's not the President alone. The Deputy President as well really enjoyed his company. They formed a serious working security relationship of securing the country. And his cabinet secretary. These people became like brothers. I've seen, someone on Twitter saying, it was these rules, the President was in a corner. And I actually feel bad for the three of them because I know it went beyond the working relationship. And they were working to change this country very seriously. And it's a serious blow to the three of them. That one I'm saying, I talked to him personally. None of you know that information, but I know he had a very, very good working relationship with His Excellency. Na hata niliona Excellency jana umeshika macho kidogo, watu wakasema hii ni machozi ya crocodile, these are fake. In my heart, from what I know it was genuine. I know it was genuine. So, Your Excellency, once again, thank you very much. Na watu wache kusema hizo maneno zao ati, he did this. These guys were friends in State House. Nyinyi hamjai kwenda huko. Mimi mzendo alikuwa ananiambia napenda president sana. They are good friends. So yo maneno from today, unless you're quoting me, muachane nayo.
Now, Defense Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale addressed the elephant in the room, the happenings at Bomas of Kenya on 15th of August when the late general is said to have been part of a team that visited the IEBC chair Wafula Chebukati trying to overturn Ruto's election win. Now, he was answering several leaders who have questioned the claim, saying there was no way the general could have been part to such a plot. Now, SEK Archbishop Jackson Olesapit added his voice to the debate, saying the late general had asked him to intervene on behalf of the President William Ruto. The CS Aden Duale revealed the fallen general had shown him the SMS messages between himself and his bosses on the said date, claiming the general had been forced to do the dirty work of his bosses, some of who were present during the burial.
The former Prime Minister yesterday said a statement, and I want to qualify that statement, because General Ogola was very close to me, particularly when he was the Vice Chief of Defense Forces. General Ogola was not, as the Vice Chief of Defense Forces, was not a member of the National Security Committee, which is chaired by the head of public service. So how did the General Ogola went to NSAC and to Bomas? And as a Muslim, General Ogola shared with me text messages of his superiors and members of the National Security Committee then. And he asked 3-4 times. First, in the morning when he was going to NSAC, he showed me the message that he was given, go represent me at NSAC, because of a prior other commitment of the person who was supposed to go. Ogola, and a direction was given to him with the other colleagues, with a leader, him as a member, to go to Bomas. General Ogola, as a respectable soldier and general, he asked and sent a text message to his bosses and asked, what am I going to do in Bomas? And this has happened. And General Ogola was told, it's been decided, you go. Raila Odinga was very right. Very right. And I came today to qualify his statement that General Ogola, a man he knows, would not have gone to Bomas. And the people who sent him to Bomas, some of them are here. Some of the people who sent him to Bomas, some of the people who sent him to Bomas are known. They are members.
All right, let's take a look at the newspapers just to get a feel of what is making headlines. And I'll kick it off with the Standard newspaper, where Ruto promises thorough probe to allay suspicion. Ruto promises thorough probe to allay suspicion. Now, the final salute, President William Ruto pledges to make public the investigation report as Azimio leaders pile pressure for answers on the death of General Ogola and others in a country with unresolved high-profile murders. Is this one of those high-profile, unresolved murder cases? That's a big question, even as a lot of fears have been allayed over what exactly happened to that chopper, or at least the helicopter that crashed and killed 10 people, including the Chief of Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya, the late General Francis Ogola. So that is the headline on the Standard newspaper. President William Ruto was in attendance in that particular send-off ceremony as he condoled with the family of the late CDF, even as other military personnel were also present. And this is just at the gravesite where the late, Francis Ogola was buried. And as you can see from top of the page, President William Ruto, sending off some sand as well to the grave of the gallant general. Also in pictures, the KDF soldiers who are paying their last tribute, the Kenya Defence Forces as well, who are also, paying their last respect, and were very crucial because it was a state function as well as a function under the military, because he was a military man, and so it was largely a military function and a lot of presence of military personnel. So that is a story that is on page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the Standard newspaper. So let me just quickly flip just to give you a sneak peek of how the papers are looking like. So page 2 is basically in pictures what happened, the big procession, the casket leaving the airport, the huge presence of military personnel, what we are calling as well the band of the military who are also present to perform that particular, to perform in that particular procession. Now, on page 4 speaks of final salute, tears, pain, and heartbreak as Ogola buried. Tears, pain, and heartbreak as Ogola buried. Now, the grieving family of the late CDF Francis Ogola stood in tears by his graveside as they bid farewell to a father, a keen and an accomplished professional whose death has left the country in shock. Now, outside the homestead, emotions ran high as friends, neighbors, and government officials united in grief to give Ogola his last salute. Now, the burial ceremony began from around 9 a.m. on Sunday all the way to about 4 p.m. when the general was laid to rest, and we listened into various tributes that were poured in last respects from the political part of it, from as well, the family, even as friends of the family. And so it was really the final salute, tears, pain, and heartbreak as Ogola buried. Now, page 5 of the Standard speaks of Uhuru and Raila skip Ogola burial in Siaya County. Now, the former President Uhuru Kenyatta and Azimio leader Raila Odinga did not attend the burial in Siaya on Sunday. The two have in the past worked closely with General Ogola, with Uhuru promoting him to the rank of Lieutenant General and appointing him Vice Chief of Defence Forces 2 years ago, a move that paved the way for his rise as the CDF. Now, Raila, who comes from the Nyanza region, just like Ogola, was a relative as revealed by Siaya Senator Oburu Oginga during the burial, and Raila's mother hailed from Alego, same as Ogola, making the general his uncle. Now, Oburu said his younger brother Raila was indisposed while the former president was out of the country. And so Raila attended the memorial service that was at Ulinzi Complex on Saturday, even as former President Uhuru Kenyatta mourned the late general through his X platform, terming him as a patriot whose leadership, valor, and dedication to duty left a profound mark on both the Kenya Defence Forces and the nation of Kenya. Now, Uhuru's aide told the Standard newspaper that the former president flew out of the country 2 weeks ago to the US in his capacity as the East African Community-led Nairobi process facilitator to discuss the stride made in restoring peace in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so according to one of the aides that spoke to the Standard said former President Uhuru Kenyatta was out of the country, even as he said Raila Odinga was indisposed. However, Odinga attended that particular memorial service that was at the Ulinzi complex on Saturday. Now, page 6, Ruto promises to make helicopter crash report public to allay fears. Ruto promises to make helicopter crash report public to allay fears. Now, the head of state said, and I quote, "The Kenya Defence Forces is as concerned as I am on the life of Ogola, and there will be no shroud of doubt on what happened." Oburu Oginga, the senator, says, "We understand that his death was an accident, but because many leaders from our region have been assassinated, or died through accidents, we have every reason to be suspicious. Now, Kalonzo Musyoka, the Azimio co-principal, says, we have heard that a team has been constituted to investigate the death. We want the government to make it public to allay all the fears. Now, calls for a probe into the helicopter crash that killed the CDF boss took center stage at the funeral, and Azimio leaders called for investigation. The government, led by President William Ruto, promised to ensure investigations are done. And the president declared that there will never be cases of extrajudicial killings or political assassinations in his regime. Now, the leaders demanded that the outcome of the investigation be made public to enable Nyanza region, that has lost several gallant soldiers in the past, to find closure. Now, in an emotional tribute, Siaya Senator and ODM leader Raila Odinga's elder brother, Oburu Oginga, said no stone should be left unturned in the probe into Ogola's death. Oburu said that the region has lost several people through assassinations, and this can only be put to rest if the government investigates the matter. Now, you've also, if you're alive to social media, you've also, looked at just various reactions that come from Kenyan, or at least Kenyans, particularly after that crash that happened. And so just as any other, public death that may occur, the government will be investigating, even as a committee has been formed and are given about 3 months to investigate that particular crash, with a team constituting of DCI officials, the aircraft division, as well as the forensic investigations, just to be able to understand what exactly happened to that particular plane just a few minutes before it crashed. Even as some of the locals that were within the area of that particular incident on that Thursday said, the plane had some unusual noise, and this perhaps will play a part as well in the investigations. Now, on page 7 of the Standard, it reads, Bomas intrigues creep into Ogola burial. Still on Ogola, Bomas intrigues creep into Ogola burial. Now, the August 15 Bomas fiasco plays out during General Ogola's burial in Siaya. It's a question of, did he visit the IBC, former IBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati? What was the purpose of the visit? Did he just follow orders going into that place? And so there's so many questions that are creeping up, and these were addressed, on Saturday as well as on Sunday. Particularly on Saturday, when the Azimio leader Raila Odinga attended that particular memorial service, and said, it is never a question whether he attended, because, or at least a question whether Ogola went to IBC. Says, Ogola was never that kind of person. On the other hand, Ruto says, there was this come to Jesus meeting he had with General Ogola, to which Ogola, told him he had 3 options: to take him to, a martial court, to fire him, or to forgive him, to which Ruto says those were the keywords that led to him being appointed as the Chief of Defense Forces. Now, the newspaper reads, claims that top security officials went to the Tarling Center at Bomas on August 15th, 2022, as the country awaited election results, re-emerged yesterday at the burial of the late CDF boss. Defense Cabinet Secretary Eden Duale told mourners that Ogola was ordered by his superiors to go to Bomas. Ogola, according to the CS, had been directed to attend the National Security Advisory Council, to which he was not a member of, and later to go to Bomas. The CS further went on to say Ogola had confided in him that the Bomas fiasco was weighing him down to the extent he was losing weight. Now, Duale removed the blame from the general and laid it on the then members of the National Security Advisory Council. So who is part of the National Security Advisory Council? This includes the head of state, the Chief of Defense Forces. The Vice Chief of Defense Forces is not part of the National Security Advisory Council. You also have National Intelligence Service, who's also part of the National Security Advisory Council. Now, during a joint media interview at State House in 2023, President William Ruto said that he appointed Ogola despite his attempt to overturn his victory. And Ruto said he elevated Ogola to the position of CDF due to his qualifications despite his advisors being against it. Now, addressing a ceremony on Saturday, Azimio leader urged President William Ruto to dispel any allegations linking the general to electoral interference. So Bomas intrigues creep in to Ogola's burial. So that is largely what has made it to the headline on the Standard this morning. On Ruto promises thorough probe to allay suspicion. Now let's talk about the Daily Nation's headline or top of the page, what is being printed out. Final send-off, that is on the Daily Nation. General Francis Ogola, who was born in 1962 and passed away in 2024. So final send-off. Top of the page, you can see President William Ruto, First Lady Rachel Ruto, laying flowers on the grave site of the late general. You can also see the widow, that is Aileen Ogola, as well as the son, in a very intimate moment for the family who've lost a father, a kin, and a relative, as well as top of the page, soldiers who were paying their last respects to the late general. Now, Chief of Defense Forces Francis Ogola was laid to rest amid calls for a speedy and thorough probe into the cause of the helicopter crash that killed Kenya's foremost military officer, the country's first four-star general to die in office, who was mourned as a gallant general, humble, and an ethical man. And the nation has been able to do that story on page 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the Daily Nation. So basically almost similar to what the Standard has done, where leaders call for thorough probe as General Ogola is laid to rest. Duale defends Ogola on bombers, says he was sent by his superiors, even as the nation also mourns other victims of the deadly accident. Remember, 10 people died, including Francis Ogola. We also had Brigadier Swale Saidi, who was buried on Friday, Colonel Duncan Keitani, Lieutenant Colonel David Sawe, Major George Magondu, Captain Sora Mohammed, Captain Hilary Litali, Senior Sergeant John Kinywa Mureithi, Sergeant Climfons Omondi, as well as Sergeant Rose Nyawira. So those are the 9 other victims of the deadly crash that claimed the lives of 10 and left 2 nursing serious injuries, survivors who are in hospital recuperating. And so that is the headline on the Daily Nation. And after the break as well, I'll be taking you through other stories on the Nation as well. And then finally to the Star newspaper, top of the page, senators plan to extend term limits. Senators plan to extend term limits. Now, a new bill has been submitted where President, members of Parliament, MCAs, and governors to get 7 years in office instead of 5, which are within the Constitution. Now, the new bill also creates the office of the Prime Minister, similar to the proposals of the National Dialogue Committee report. Now, that is a page 4-5 story on the Star newspaper. There's a new bid to raise term president to 7 years instead of 5 years. Now, Kenyans will be electing their leaders every 7 years instead of the current 5, in a new move that could trigger massive political outrage. Now, a bill that has been fronted by Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei, President William Ruto's ally, increases the term limit to 7 years. Now, the bill proposes to amend Article 136 of the Constitution, which provides for election of president to increase the term of president from 5 to 7 years. It also amends Article 101, 177, and 180 of the Constitution to extend the terms of members of Parliament, members of County Assembly, and governors to 7 years. So those are the elective positions, a president, a member of Parliament, and a governor, as well as an MCA. So what happens to the senators, or at least the senatorial seat and the woman representative seat? Now, the legislative proposal is currently before the Senate Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights Committee, where it was referred to by Senate Speaker Amason Kingi. Now, if approved, the Bomet Senator Hilary Sigei-led committee and cleared by Kingi, the bill will be published for introduction in the Senate for the first reading. Now, constitutional lawyer Bob Mkangi, who sat in the committee of experts that drafted the 2010 Constitution, said the panel pegged the term of elected leaders at 5 years on proposals by Kenyans. Now, the lawyer argued that there is no heavy reason that the period of parliament or government should be extended. Now, the bill creates the office of the Prime Minister, similar to what was recommended by the National Dialogue Committee report. Now, currently, the Constitution limits the term of president to a maximum of 2 years of 5 years each. This comes on the backdrop of 2 weeks ago, where Pokot South Member of Parliament David Kosing and business tycoon Narendra Raval ignited debate on the matter. And previously, you know, one of them, that is the businessman, said Ruto should rule Kenya for at least 25 years. Kosing, on the other side, also appeared to support the call for the extension of the presidential term limit. Now, there are some of the things that you need to know before this kind of move, you know, happens or, you know, is actualized. This particular bill touches on key fundamentals of the Constitution or key articles of the Constitution that will 100% require a referendum. Issues that touch on governance as well as things like term limits will definitely require a referendum. Now, there's a process to it, obviously, because this is just a bill that has been proposed by a particular senator, which will require, you know, it is approved by Senator or Speaker of the Senate, that is Amason Kingi. Does it fit the regulations or the requirements for a particular bill to be discussed in the Senate? And then if approved, then it will go to a first reading of the Senate. Members can discuss about it, and perhaps a second and a third reading. Now, if majority of the senators vote for this particular bill, then it will require a public participation. That means it has to go back to the people. And if it touches on key particular, you know, articles of the Constitution, then that means it will have to go to referendum. So just quickly to perhaps take you again on the highlights of term limits legislative proposal to increase terms of president, MPs, governors, and MCAs from 5 years to 7 years, to create the office of the Prime Minister, the Senate to vet cabinet secretaries, Attorney General, the Auditor General, the Police, IG, Chief Justice, and judges, the National Assembly to vet ambassadors, counties to get 40% of national revenue from the current 15%, impeachment of governor and deputy governor to be challenged in Supreme Court only. The court shall make the determination on the case within 30 days, even as both houses of parliament to approve the deployment of the Kenya Defence Forces. So that is the headline on the Star newspapers. Senators plan to extend term limits. Top of the page as well, the burial of the late Chief General, and you know, you can see police with salute. You know, the I'd say Defence Forces, being saluted or giving the last honors, and the family as well. Right here, General's son Rabuku Omondi Ogola, the wife Aileen Ogola, and the daughter Lona Achieng Ogola arrive at the burial. So that is the headline on the Star newspaper. Now allow me to take a quick breather, but when we come back, I'll be giving you details of other stories as well, making headlines on the newspapers, so stay with us. More deaths being reported. Just give you a picture of what I practically experienced. You know, there was impassable roads in some parts of, you know, Jogoo Road, even as, you know, some cars had been submerged in water. Now, in Athi River, you'd had, you know, seasonal rivers that were completely overflowing with water, bridges that have been submerged. You could not see a bridge where normally there should be a bridge. and that is just in Nairobi area. There's also Mukuru kwa Njenga and Mukuru kwa Ruben slums, where the rains as well made destructions in that particular area. And so that is the picture, and that is just, one of the things that as well comes with the rains. There's also the deaths, where the number of deaths that have been reported. Now, the body of a woman who is believed to have been washed away by raging rainwater was retrieved from Ngong River, and officers at Langata Police Station are investigating the matter. In the latest forecast, the Met Department warns Kenyans that they should expect more rains. Now, highlands of the West Rift Valley, the Lake Victoria Basin, and the Rift Valley, which includes Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Migori, Kisii, Nyamira, Trans Nzoia, Baringo, Uasin Gishu, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nandi, Nakuru, Narok, Kericho, Bomet will experience heavy rains. Highlands of the east of the Rift Valley, including Nairobi, Nyandarua, Laikipia, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Murang'a, Kiambu, Meri, and Embu will also experience rainy weather. Now, in Kirinyaga, for instance, as well, we've had families of more than 600 persons who were displaced after, the rains flooded into their homes. In Kisumu County as well, and Siaya, we also have cases of the rains and the script that is so similar, where we have a cycle of, there's drought, no food at all, then the rains come, and then there's flooding, and, you're having deaths as well, and destruction, and vandalism as well, and people being displaced. And so that is just basically the script. Now, in the Kenya Urban Roads Authority, that is KURA, has urged motorists in Nairobi to keep off Raila Odinga Road, which is formerly the Mbagathi Road in Langata area, near Wilson in Nairobi, and links in Nyali, Mombasa County. In Machakos County, choppers were used to evacuate residents of Ngelani who were trapped in their homes by floods. At 360 Phase 2 Estate in Syokimau, Machakos County, tenants living on the ground floor were forced to move out of their houses. So bad was the situation that Machakos County Governor Wavinya Ndeti sent county officials to assess the situation and find a solution. Now, residents say they bought the houses for 6.5 million shillings and have unresolved issues with the company that sold the house to them. So that is the situation in various parts of the country. Residents of Mukuru, Kayaba are also being affected by the rains. That is Mukuru Kayaba in South B, which is a slum, is affected by the heavy rains that have pounded the city from Saturday night. In fact, as well, last night, it also rained in Nairobi as well as parts of the country. Now, to page 8 and 9 of the Daily Nation that speaks of club owner, 5 others found guilty of killing a former Juja member of parliament. Now, post-mortem report indicated that George Thuo, the former Juja MP, died of poisoning. Now, the High Court on Friday convicted Poki's club owner Paul Wainaina Boyo and his 5 employees over the murder of the former MP 11 years ago. Now, Justice Roslyn Korir found Boyo, Christopher Lumbasio Andika, Andrew Karanja Wainaina, Samuel Kuria Ngugi, Esther Ndida Mulinge, and Ruth Vanessa Irungu guilty of murdering Thuo on November 19th, 2013. Now, the judge said evidence presented by the prosecution linked all the accused persons to Thuo's poisoning. Now, Gachagua and Sakaja camps jostle ahead of UDA polls in Nairobi. The battle for control of UDA party in Nairobi has led to the emergence of 2 rival camps ahead of the party grassroots elections on Friday. On one side is Governor Johnson Sakaja, who has declared interest in the Nairobi chairperson position, while other camp has Embakasi North MP James Gakuya. Now, Gakuya is said to have the blessings of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who has had bad blood with Sakaja. Now, former nominated Senator Millicent Omanga is also in Gakuya's camp, following her bitter fallout with the county governor. So those are some of the stories on the Daily Nation as well that have made headlines. Now, to the Standard newspaper that speaks of Kalonzo wants Mutula against reckless stock. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has called out Makueni County Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr. for implying that the region started getting fewer government appointments and developments after the death of Ukambani politician Mulu Mutisia. According to Mutula, Mutisia, who was close with former President Jomo Kenyatta and Daniel Arap Moi, did a lot for the region. Now, days before his death in 2004, Mutisia reportedly blessed Kalonzo to succeed him during a meeting held at the Mulu Mutisia Gardens in Machakos town. According to Mutula, the region enjoyed good fortunes during Mutisia's time. And when he rose to speak, a seemingly agitated Kalonzo censured Mutula, and he told the governor not to dwell on government positions, saying Kenya has experienced structural changes, including the 2010 constitution. The former VP called on leaders from Ukambani to work hard to ensure the region benefits in the future. And so those are the tough wars within the eastern part of Kenya. Now, according to the Medical Supplies Authority, the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, Kikuyus, Luos, and Luyas make up the majority of staff at KEMSA. That is a report before Parliament. Now, the report tabled by the Medical Supplies Agency before the National Assembly Committee on Cohesion and Equal Opportunity shows that Kikuyu, with 124 of their own at the agency, constitutes 22.42%. Now, they are followed by Luo at 15.6% and Luyas at 14.23%, while the two having 88 and 83 of their own respectively. Now, Kambas is at 69. 69 Kambas work at the government institution, with the community making 12.28%, as the Kalenjins 63 hold 11.21% of the staff. Now, Kisis are at 41, Merus are at 29, Somalis at 16, Saboats at 15, and Embus at 10. And those with the least representation include Pokots, who are just 6, Mejikenda at 3, Swahili at 2, Teso at 2, and Borana at 1. So that is on equity and cohesion. Remember, there has been, call to have an equal, government, or at least positions in government which are equitably shared amongst all the tribes within the Republic of Kenya. And so this is just one of those plans, perhaps, or reports that paint the picture of how the public service is looking like. Also, the Standard has spoken on destruction, injuries as heavy rains pound various parts of the country. Now, an analysis has been done on the Standard as well on the wage bill, to which Kenya Kwanza's approach to the wage bill crisis could be better. Now, on bureaucratic paper, the conference stands resolution as sensible and reveal much about our state of governance. And in true fat cat fashion, we had nothing this week about two important issues, that is pay inequity and multiple allowances. Now, Gladys Boschole, who's the National Assembly Deputy Speaker, said on matters allowances, particularly that are given to persons within the service or the public service, this is an issue that was brought up so as to give a balance to the basic salary that is being paid out. Instead of increasing the basic salaries, there's a reduction of the basic salaries, but an increase in number of allowances, to which she says that is anchored into law. Now, one other story that is making headline on the Star newspaper this morning is changes tension as IEBC rejects key NADCO proposals amid fears of clash with the political class. The National Dialogue Committee report has been rejected, or some of the proposals have been rejected, as IEBC fears political clash. Now, fireworks loom as IEBC rejects NADCO proposals. The Commission has opposed proposed selection panel and quorum law. The polls agency IEBC has opposed the proposed changes of the Chief Executive Officer, that is the CEO's tenure, to 3 years renewable once. Now, IEBC has also rejected the proposal that a member of the Commission can act in the absence of the chairperson and the vice chairperson. In the same vein, the electoral agency says a quorum of members be retained as in the current law, which sets it's based on members present. The Electoral Commission also expressed its discomfort with the proposed composition of the IEBC selection panel, saying it has too many politicians. So that is definitely something that will be interesting to see how it develops from this point onwards. Even as the National Dialogue Committee report, you know, the implementation of it, as Mio have been saying, the government is adamant to implement some of these proposals, and we'll just be looking forward to see how things develop from that point onwards. Remember, the IBC still has no commissioners in place, but the selection panel, you know, has been dragged behind following, you know, the political pull and push between the government and the opposition. But at the moment, there are some constituencies that are not represented, as well as wards that are not represented because they do not have elected leaders in place, and IBC is supposed to conduct those particular polls, but then IBC does not have commissioners in place, and so it is a long wait and a long journey ahead of the constitution of that key agency that is in charge of conducting polls across the country. So that is where we wrap Morning Live this morning. With that, you know, take through on what is making headlines on the newspapers this morning. So allow me to wrap it up at that point. I hope you're up to speed with what is making headlines across the country. Do enjoy the rest of your broadcast. My name is Cynthia Nanjala.